Hello, everyone. This is Roberta Almerez. I'm a local Sacramento ceramicist and potter, and I'm with Penra Pottery, and that's Penny Left and myself. And we do functional wear, we do hand building, and we do a little whimsy. And I'm here today with Susan Silvester, one of my favorite artists.
Thank
And
you.
she is a fabulous, what she call an interdisciplinary artist. She works with different mediums and is originally from New York City. And Susan, I think you can tell us the rest. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to be an interdisciplinary artist, because I'm really impressed with that. And I myself have gone through phases of different mediums and stuff. And we thought it would be an interesting thing to talk about and share with our viewers.
Okay. I think it harks back to the fact that I was what we considered a model maker. I worked in the TV commercial, creating props for TV commercials and television shows like Pee-wee's Playhouse. I built a set made out of polyester, like urethane that was expandable foam that was like 70 by 30 feet. So I've worked with a lot of different materials through my time doing 3D and 2D graphics. I also was a computer artist for a very early PC game called Rise of the Triad, which was one of the first shoot 'em up games on a network platform. And I also use that to help me do the public art pieces I'm doing, because now I'm very adept at computers. And so as an interdisciplinary, I kind of mix and match things. And I don't like we were talking about, different medias that I love. There's no one preference. It actually is more about my imagery and how I can get my content and my thoughts across, and what materials will work best for that. And so usually when I pick a material, it's because I think that that's going to expose what I'm trying to say. So, anything from cyanotypes to, using watercolor or oil paints or acrylic, it just depends, like what I'm saying. And if you look behind me, I think you can see some of my artwork, all different mediums. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I think that.
So where did you get the bulk of your training?
Well, I'm overeducated. I have 2 degrees. I have a fine art degree in studio arts, and I have an art history degree, and I have a master's. It was full-time when I went. I got my, undergraduate and fine art degree at the same time when I was younger. I always took classes, continually took classes since the 80s. I have another degree that you could say in associate arts, because I just keep taking classes. I've done printmaking and sculpture and jewelry making and, anything that has to do with the arts. At the time, I'm just very interested in learning new techniques, new skills. My latest is kind of combining printmaking, alternative ways of doing it. I'm using a pasta maker now to make, because I can't go to a studio, so I'm making my pasta machine into a press.
Do you have any samples of that?
I was looking for the plate that I made, and I must have misplaced it. Oh, here it is, because it looks just like. So here's the plate that you make out of. You can
Wow.
You can use your. I don't know if I can get the angle. You can see it. Maybe if I put paper behind it.
No, yeah, there you go. Oh, look at that.
So you scratch it using a scribe, just like, but you could use an old X-Acto knife. And I use the plastic that comes from your, like, strawberries or, any of your fruits or cookies from Trader Joe's. And I cut them into little pieces, and then it prints. And here's one of the prints that I ran through the.
That's
so
amazing.
Etching. It's hilarious. I find these alternative, practices really entertaining, because it's pushing the limits of like how you can take fine art, but using it with a crafty kind of method. And I'm not wealthy, so I can't afford a press. So I thought, why not? So anyway.
That's very, very, very clever. And do you have a favorite medium? Do you go through phases?
Do I have a favorite medium? It changes constantly. I just love basically to draw, to paint, and to sculpt. And that's the basis of it. And depending on what I want to do, like if you look in the corner, I don't know if you can see it, that sculpture here, this sculpture.
Yes.
That's felt. And that happened by accident. I saw a piece at Axis Gallery in Sacramento of this woman named Stephanie Metz, and she did this giant fuzzy frog, and I was just fascinated by it. And then I took a
Mediums
class.
take some effort and they take a lot of time, and most people could spend a lifetime doing one medium,
Right.
yet you do quite a few, and you're certainly no slouch in ceramics. I'm just really impressed with your work, but how much time have you given it? Have you always been a ceramicist on and off?
Let's say this, I sculpted toys for a living and modeled.
Ah,
When you sculpt for a living, which I did for 10 years or 12 years, every day for more than 10 hours a day, so there's that certain, that hours that you put in.
mhm.
So 10,000 hours, I am sure I put that in because I worked on, accurate Pillsbury Doughboy commercials, Teddy Graham commercials, and then had tried my own line of sculpted toys for a while, of porcelain dolls that I tried to do. Um, I just, you just put the time in. It was just something I did, and while I was doing that, working freelance, I also worked as a secretary for answering office temp jobs. So I supported myself during this whole time of trying to, do my practice, until I got into the TV commercial thing, which is totally freelance. So you just had to hustle all the time, trying to get jobs. But I worked a lot in sculpting, a lot.
So what is the difference for you between fine art and commercial art? I've noticed that you've done a lot of art that you got paid for, which is really great, and a lot of training that you got paid for, which is like on-the-job training, which is very rare and unusual these days. But how do you still work for yourself when you're working so much for commercial ends?
You're working for yourself, but you have to listen to people and you have to, kind of get into their head. It's a different mindset, totally.
Uh-huh.
Um,
But
I always,
are you still able to follow your muse? Are you still doing personal work when you're doing commercial work?
so in 2010, I went back to school, or 2008, and got my master's. And it was mainly to focus on that fine art degree for me. It was a way of like taking time off from working and focus on what do I say, how do I say it, what's my work about, rather than having all these people's head, like voices in my head. It was really hard because I did have all those voices telling me what to do all the time. I was like a conduit for people. Like, just tell me what you want, I can do it, and you get really tired of that after a while. So it was really my time.
Wow. Was that a pleasure for you? And what kind of results did you get from that year?
Well, it got me in a gallery almost immediately, and then I started, and then like things like, this was a shock. Like, I'll show you this article that was in Submarine in 2013. They did an article on me.
Uh-huh.
So it actually paid off because I ended up getting a little notoriety from it, which was really, I just been doing my thing. But I think it was a good thing for me to move into the fine art thing. And during that time, you have to realize I was still teaching like it was considered part-time, but it was like full-time because I spent like 40 hours a week teaching.
Wow, teaching too.
I taught at the Art Institute, and I taught college.
God, you've done everything.
Station classes for the beginning student to understand how to draw, how to paint, how to color theory. Those are like my specialties. Excuse me.
Does your style carry over from one medium to another? Say that the little girl with the hat, you do a lot of children's, but do you take those images from medium to medium, or do you strictly do those just in a 2D?
No, I take it to 3D too downstairs. But yeah, I'm doing sculptures now based on my characters. That's what I just started doing. So I have like.
Are you going to be showing those at your open studio?
I don't think I'm going to have time to get them fired. They may be in the background, if I get them up here. I don't like moving them too much because they're in their greenware state and they're very fragile, so they're kind of like resting on a shelf in the background.
And you use the kiln over at Verge Studios? Is that your kiln, or do you have another kiln?
I have a friend who offers to fire my stuff. Yeah.
So. Well, that's nice. What is the medium that you have to work hardest at, that you have to try a little harder and be a little better, because it's maybe not your strength?
I think that it's my strength and my weakness at the same time. painting and drawing. I mean, it's the hardest thing to do. It's just hard. Like I'm working on 7 painting now, and each one of them has their own things that come up that just are very frustrating and very hard to do. And it all has to do with, you know, getting the value right and getting the, you know, because I work with landscape and, you know, fantasy landscapes and figures. So there's a combination that you have to like get the lighting to be good and the background, and it's very difficult actually. It's not the easiest.
Did you take the time to study lighting and maybe photography?
I did. I took about, I'd say, 2 years solid of photography when I was in school, undergrad.
With the lighting, it's because it's the lighting that's important, studying the lighting, and that's actually a separate study.
I studied with some very famous people. There's an artist, a photographer named Stetna. He's very famous. If you look him up, he's like one of the early photographers that did documentary type things for social justice stuff. And he was amazing. And he kind of took me under his wing, and he kind of helped me a lot. So, yeah,
Oh, cool.
yeah, really.
Cool. Well, we've gone on for quite a bit. We've exceeded our goals. I do have one more question for you. What would be your advice to a young artist today who can't seem to focus because they love to do 2 or 3 things at once? What would you tell someone who was innately interdisciplinary?
I think when you start out, I think you should try everything. I think I don't think you should, like, school dares you to, that's your master's. But when you're first starting out, try everything, do everything, I've gone through many phases of many different things that I thought, but I think the one thing I will take away, don't try to think that you're going to make a product that you're going to sell without the passion behind it of really loving what you're doing. Because I've tried that and it never works, because you yourself get bored with it because you're not really into it. When you find what you love to do consistently over and over again, it comes easy. It's not something you force as a product. So I think that's the only thing I think that you could take away. It's just
thank you. And maybe one last question. What do you think, why do you think people have the urge to create and maybe to acquire? Because people do both, especially as artists. So you love other people's work. I mean, what is it, what makes you create? What is ultimately what drives you to do what you do?
I think it's like being in your own world that just entertains you and delights you and just makes you like laugh and just enjoy the moment while you're doing it. I think that's why I like doing it. So, and I love the feel of, the brush on the paper or the sculpting of the clay, the feel of the touch of it. And I mean, I even like computer stuff because I'm still drawing and liking the imagery and working with color and the pure form of it. So everything to me is just, it's just fun. That's all.
Well, thank you, Sue. And I want to thank everyone who found us on the internet. But this has been really, really great, and really appreciate you taking the time to share some of your thoughts and ideas. There's lots of things that I never knew before, so thank you so much.
Well, thank you for asking me. I really appreciate it, and I think you did a great job.
Oh, thank you.